Order in Egypt during the New Kingdom by Etienne, Joey, Montana, Pamela, and Stefan. Our question and what's to be covered. Architecture in the New World of Memphis, Egypt. How did the world's first societies use architecture to try and understand and order their world? And how the New Kingdom of Memphis used architecture to exemplify their religious beliefs, which made up the building blocks of their society. Some facts. It lasted from 1570 BC to 1069 BCE. It was the 18th dynasty, as Imperial Egypt expanded over its older borders to form an empire, had some of the most famous pharaohs of the era, Hatshepsut, Thutmose III, Amenhotep III, Akhmet and his wife Nefertiti, Tutankhamun, and Ramses II. It was to organize the meaning of the world, Egyptians advanced religion, and Amenhotep III made the many religious advancements. Architecture in the ancient world was similar to our world today in that it helps depict an overall meaning of representation of the society believes. Like many countries of the world today, ancient civilizations use religion as a guide to their life by condemning those who've done sinful actions and rewarding those who've done good deeds. A society in the ancient world, which was predominantly organized by religion, was a new kingdom in Egypt. This long-lasting society used architecture to try and understand and order their world by having their architecture be a representation of their religious beliefs and powerful divine pharaohs. This made up the building blocks of their society. It helped the pharaohs keep order in and among Egyptian people, and gave worship to their gods that were representations of the world around them. Their architecture that was built to order the New Kingdom Egyptian were primarily temples and tombs. These buildings helped the New Kingdom last for almost 4 decades. So temples, they were built during the New Kingdom and were the most important buildings to the people and the pharaohs of the time. They were large, open buildings and with many pillars for support, had long flat shrines and a chapel as well as storerooms towards the back. They were mostly comprised of chiseled limestone that was decorated heavily with paintings and hieroglyphs. These temples were sacred to the people of Egypt because of its representation of the pharaoh's power and connection to the gods, which they looked to for guidance in their lives. They used the gods to justify what was going on in the world around them. And so the Luxor Temple was located on the east bank of the Nile River. This temple was a large place of religious festivities and worship in ancient Egypt. It was dedicated to the god Amun, the god of fertility and life. It was built by Amenhotep, Ramses II, and Tutankhamun. The pylon of Ramses II was the entrance to the Luxor Temple, which was covered in paintings of Ramses' military accomplishments. These large statues of Ramses that guarded the entrance from guarded. For anyone that entered these temples, these statues would instill a fear of the pharaoh's power, which would keep order in their kingdom. This led to the court of Ramses, court of Amenhotep, and court of Hypostyle Hall, which were all comprised of many columns which were covered in hieroglyphs and paintings of the pharaohs, which depicted more of their greatness and connection to the gods. So the temple of Hatshepsut was the most successful pharaoh. Although being a woman, she used architecture to display her power. The temple of Hatshepsut was also known as the Montreux Temple. It was one of the greatest temples in the New Kingdom. It was covered in paintings and depicted the divinity of Hatshepsut. She used this large temple to convey her royal authority over anyone who dared to defy her. The temple was built against a large cliff face, which creates a very daunting fear for anyone that sees the large temple beneath. It was covered in many sculptures of Hatshepsut in different positions, and in order to depict her greatness to anyone who walked through it. She built it like this to create a worship of her as a pharaoh so she could bring order to the new kingdom. Here are some paintings of her divinity. And so the Temple of Konark is one of the greatest sites of the New Kingdom, with a span of 100 acres. It was comprised of 10 large pylons, which all were covered in paintings of different rulers and gods. The Great Hyposet Hall was the biggest part of the Konark, and its staggering 134 columns and size of about 100 meters by 50 meters, with a height of 20 meters. Konark also housed the temples of Ramses II, Khonos, Amun, and Phut. All beside the temple of Ramses were temples dedicated to the gods: Amun, the god of life and fertility; Phut, the god of craftsmen and architects; and Khonos, the god of moon and temple. These temples were some of the most magnificent and largest buildings in the ancient Egypt, which showed the importance of their religion and how they used it to understand and bring order to the world they lived in. So now to However, even though these pharaohs built these large temples, they were buried in separate locations to keep them safe from tomb raiders. Most of them were buried in the Valley of the King in rock-cut tombs. These tombs were elaborately decorated and often offered clothes, food, and drinks for the pharaoh's afterlife. An incredible tomb discovered completely intact was King Tutankhamun, where the tomb was covered up and a great variety of items were discovered inside the king to have a successful and entertaining afterlife. It seemed like Tut was going on a trip and needed all of his possessions with him going on a trip to the afterlife. In his tomb, archaeologists found a headrest, which was a pillow, a fan, board games, throwing sticks to hunt birds in the afterlife, jewelry, including pendants, a chariot, and even perfume. All of the pharaoh's tomb had some of these personal items in them, and this emphasizes the importance of religion in the New Kingdom because it reinforces the fact that pharaohs would have another life after death and needed their possessions for that life. This is just showing some of the items that they found and for his afterlife. Throughout all the temples and tombs, there are large pillars known as obelisks, which are almost like an updated version of ancient pyramids seen in the Old Kingdom. They signified not only the strength of the rulers, but their closeness to God. They were often covered in hieroglyphs which depicted the heroic deeds of the ruler and their divinity. When people would see these huge structures, they would be captivated by the sheer size and would be inclined to believe and trust the ruler that made them, just like the large temples they created. This is how the ruler would gain control of people and help create a cohesive society, thus keeping order and religious ideas of the populace. And here are some more hieroglyphs depicted on the obelisks. Thank you for our time, and that is the end of our presentation.